In this video, I will show you how to choose the right needle for your sewing machine so that it is suitable for the type of fabric that you choose to sew on. Welcome to the Sew and Craft channel. My name is Shireen Haynes. Being creative and teaching are my passions, and I've been doing this full-time since 1993. I post regular, easy to follow, step-by-step videos for sewing and craft, so if you would like to know when I post new videos, please click on the subscribe button as well as the little bell icon below. And if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up because it helps me to spread the word that sewing and crafting are fun. So let's take a look at sewing machine needles. There are many different types of needles available, and it is so important to match the type of needle to the type of fabric that you are working with. This video will introduce you to the different types of needles and also explain which types of fabric they should be used on. There is a link to the ebook version of this video, and that can be found in the description box below this video. You can also find this ebook and others at this website. Let's start by quickly looking at the anatomy of a needle. This will make it easier for us to understand the difference between the different needle types and also why they would be suited to certain fabric types. Right at the top edge we have what is called the butt, and this is beveled so that it makes it easy to insert it into the needle bar holder. This part is known as the shank. It has a rounded front and a flat back, and the flat part goes to the back of the machine. The sloping part is known as the shoulder, and on the shoulder you're going to find bands of color that tell you the size and the type of the needle. The rest of the length of the needle is known as the blade. Now the diameter of this blade determines the size of the needle. Running down the front of the needle, you'll find the groove. Now the groove guides the thread into the eye of the needle. Now the eye of the needle will vary in size as well as shape according to the type of needle that it is. Now finally we have the point and the tip. Now the length, shape and size of the point and the tip will vary according to the type of needle. Now let's take a closer look at points and tips. Universal, stretch, Microtex and embroidery needles have got sharp points and tips. Then if we look at the ballpoint needles, they have rounded points and tips. Now it's important to understand this information because if you used a needle that had a sharp point and tip on a knitted fabric, you would create holes in that fabric, and if you try to use a ballpoint or a rounded point tip needle on a densely woven fabric, you'll have skipped stitches. The next thing that we're going to have a look at is the shape as well as the size of the eyes. Now universal, ballpoint, stretch and Microtex needles have eyes that are designed to be used with regular sewing thread. Embroidery needles have a slightly larger eye, and that allows embroidery thread to flow through smoothly and easily. Then finally we have metallic and top stitch needles, which have the largest eyes. Now they allow thick or rough thread to flow through them smoothly and easily. Now here is a side view of the needle, and if you looked at the back of the needle you'll see there's a little indentation known as the scarf. The scarf allows the bobbin hook of the machine to grab the thread under the throat plate so that it can form a stitch. The shape and size of the scarf will vary according to the type and size of the needle. Now that we know how many factors affect the different types of needles, let's go and have a look at those different types and have a look at what fabric types they would be best suited to. The easiest way to open a pack of needles is to slide the back away from the front, and then to remove the needles you bend the back of the pack away from the actual needles, and then it's easy to remove a needle. Then to close the pack, you just flip that closed and slide it back again. Now the top of the pack also has a magnifier built into it, so if you tilt the pack slightly, you'll be able to read the size of the needle. Another feature that you're going to find, and this is only on Schmetz needles, is those bands of color. Now they will help you to identify the type and size of the needle. This video has not been sponsored by Schmetz. It is just that it's my personal preference to use Schmetz needles, as I have personally found them to be the best. There are 4 types of needles that all sewists should have in their collection, and they are universal, jersey, stretch, and Microtex. Here's another quick interesting fact. There is an actual word, sewist, and it refers to a person who likes to create through sewing. Universal needles only have one band of color on their shanks, and that represents the size. They have sharp points, so they are suitable for all natural woven fabric, like in some of the examples to the right. You need to match the size of the needle to the weight of the fabric. Lightweight fabric requires a smaller size needle, whereas heavier weight fabric requires a larger size needle. And to the right are some examples of where you would use the different sizes. Jersey needles, also known as ballpoint needles, have 2 bands of color. One is for the type, and that would be orange, and then the other colors are for the different sizes. They have rounded points, so they are suitable for all knitted fabrics. Here are some examples of those fabrics, and also examples of which size needle to use for which weight of fabric. Because the jersey needles have a rounded point, they won't split the fibers of knitted fabric, so you won't have any holes or ladders forming. Now, if you were to use a needle with a very sharp point on the knitted fabric, you might find holes and ladders forming because the sharp point would split those fibers. Stretch needles also have 2 bands of colors on their shanks, one for the type and one for the size, and yellow would represent the type. They have fine to medium rounded points, so they are suitable for all very stretchy knitted fabric as well as all elastic fabric. Examples of this would include viscose lycra, including bamboo lycra, bonbon, scuba, micro jersey, then all the different lycras that they make swim and gym wear from, as well as stretch lace and stretch mesh. Because the stretch needle has that fine to medium rounded point, it finds its way in between these very elastic fibers without damaging them. Because if you were to use a sharp needle, you would damage the fabric, but if you were to use the regular jersey or the ballpoint needle, then the machine would skip stitches. There are 2 sizes, so you would use the size 75 for the light to medium weight fabric, and then the size 90 for the heavier weight fabric. Microtex needles also have 2 colors on their shanks. One color would be the type and one would be for the size. Purple is the color that represents the type. They have very fine points, so they are suitable for all synthetic woven fabric. Now, if you were to stitch any of these synthetic woven fabrics using a universal needle that has a sharp point, what would happen is that it would cause puckered seams. So it's important to use the Microtex needle on all of your synthetic woven fabric so that you end up with pucker-free seams. Now, the sharp point of the universal needle is perfect for all your natural woven fabric, but you need that fine point of the Microtex for all of the synthetic woven fabric. Once you have the 4 important types of needles that all sewists need, here are a few more that you can add. There is a jeans needle for denim, a top stitch needle for when you're using top stitch thread. Then there's a metallic needle for when you are using metallic thread, and a leather needle for when you are sewing leather. Then there are quilting needles for quilting through batting. Then there's an embroidery needle for decorative thread, and a gold embroidery needle that is titanium coated. Then there's also a hem stitch needle, a double eye needle, and then there are twin and triple needles. Now, if you would like more information about all of these needles, you can find some of it in that ebook, and there is a link to the ebook in the description box below. There will also be some projects that will be done using these needles, so if you would like to know when I post those videos, please remember to subscribe and click on the little bell icon. Now, I like to store all of my new needles inside one of these little containers, and here it is when it's open, and you can see I've got my 4 most important needles inside little divisions. Then I've created other containers for my more specialized needles, and that way I can keep track of my new needles. Then when it comes to my used needles, I never put them back into their original packs. I put them into this nifty little needle cushion, and that way I can keep track of which are my used needles. Look out for the pattern as well as the instructions on how to make this little nifty needle cushion too. Now, if you would like to have access to more of my videos like this, with hints, tips, techniques, and projects that are all about sewing, craft, decor, or digitizing, please feel free to subscribe to my channel, and remember to click on the little bell so that you won't miss any new videos that I post.